one of the top concerns for many Americans. It should be all Americans, but of course we have some out there who think that the 2020 election was the most secure in history. Sheep. Let's head to Pennsylvania. We have some good news and a big win for election integrity. Pennsylvania's highest court striking down their state's mail-in voting law. Yeah, remember the one they rammed through real quick before the election? Yeah, it's not constitutional. Like we've been saying, 3 Republican judges agreed that the Constitution states that Americans must vote in person unless they have a legitimate reason and excuse. Things include being away from home on election day, having a disability, being in the military and stationed overseas, things that would create a barrier for you to be able to go to the polls. Then, of course, you should be able to do a mail-in ballot. You're welcome. Not hundreds of thousands just because. And then, drop them off weeks in advance and days after the election. No opening for fraud there. My next guest, Pennsylvania State Senator Doug Mastriano, just wrote an op-ed about the court's recent ruling entitled How Pennsylvania Democrats Hijacked Act 77. And no kidding, did they? Here now to discuss further, our friend, State Senator and retired Army Colonel Doug Mastriano. Senator, how you been?
Thank you, sir, for having me on. You know, it's troubling when you and I have seen better elections in Afghanistan and Iraq than in Pennsylvania.
I mean, here's the thing, Doug. You were on this program, others were as well, and we were all saying this months leading up as these states were changing the rules last minute to allow, of course, blaming COVID. We've got to have mail-in. We have to have drop boxes. We need them for weeks before, and then days after they can still trickle in, and we'll still count them because COVID. Now, one, we know that's all BS because we could have voted because look at the lines they want you to stand in to get tested. So you could have went and voted in a line. And 2, there was obviously ballot harvesting, stuffing ballot boxes, and this is a bunch of crap. So I'm glad that you've got some constitutional-minded judges in your state, Doug.
I'm relieved, but it doesn't change the fact that these claims that Democrats say were baseless have not been disproven. You know, I looked at my findings from my Gettysburg hearing a year on this past November, and not one thing on my findings was disproven as being baseless, as they like to say. But in the end, we watched in Pennsylvania as a Pennsylvania State Supreme Court rewrote election law. They added 3 days, as you mentioned. They took away the requirement for a matching signature. They took away the requirement for a postal mark. So you don't even know if that ballot was mailed in on time or if they just made a photocopy at 100,000. It's bad, Dan. They stopped counting in the middle of the night in Philadelphia and Pittsburgh. And during that time, 570,000 ballots were dropped. Of those 570,000 ballots that were captured, only 3,290 went for Donald Trump. You just can't make this stuff up.
What?
Yes.
600,000. We've been talking about that number since the election. But I didn't realize only like 3,000 went to Trump.
It mathematically,
that doesn't send a red flag.
I know.
That's because people love Joe Biden, so more voted for him.
The best election in Pennsylvania history, the safest and most secure. The Democrats actually say that on the floor of the Senate. There was no fraud. It was a perfect election. I'm like, what? I was born at night, but not last night. Really?
Yeah, and Doug, now what kills me is now tomorrow on CNN or something, because they love ripping you, they'll take this soundbite, this interview, you and I chat, and they'll be like, well, the big lie from State Senator Doug Mastriano was on the right-winger Russian-owned propaganda network talking about the big lie again, even though Doug's got facts to prove something stinks in Denmark and Pennsylvania, but tomorrow they'll paint you as the big liar and us as the big liar, even though you have facts. And, by the way, 3 judges decided what Pennsylvania and Democrats did before this election was unconstitutional. And nobody with a backbone, I had to correct myself there before I got in trouble, Doug. Nobody with a backbone, either Republicans, there are some of them, Democrats, or these weak-kneed journalists as well, have the guts to get out there and report on what you and I are discussing right now.
That's right. So thank you for keeping the truth alive. John Adams said, facts are stubborn things. And guess what, Democrats? Facts are stubborn things. And the truth has been out there. We're going to keep on pounding on the truth until, the people understand what's going on. All that matters is this is not about overturning Boogie. It's about making sure that if you go in to vote, you have an equal say as anyone else who votes. And it's not about stacking a deck or anything. So what are you afraid of? Just open up the books. Let's get to the bottom of this here and let's get it right.
Yeah. Well, I have a feeling that's not going to happen. So I'll just look forward and I'll live in the past, even though I want to know what the hell happened in 2020, like millions of Americans do. At least 75 to 80 million of us want to know. And I think more than that, a much bigger number than that. So what's it going to mean for the midterms, though? This should keep Pennsylvania a bit more secure with this ruling, correct?
Yeah, if the ruling stands, now here's the problem. It's going to have to be appealed to the Pennsylvania State Supreme Court, the very same court that changed the law in the first place and compromised and undermined our election. This is a case that Paxson brought from Texas to the U.S. Supreme Court. So in the end, it needs to go to the U.S. Supreme Court, and they need to do their jobs and hear it.
All right, so fingers crossed. We know there's going to be a shakeup on the court, but if it gets there before July, you're going to have Breyer still in there because he said he will weigh in before he leaves in July in this session. So we'll see how that goes. Man, I was all excited about this news, Doug. You just let the wind out of my sails. I was like, yes, this is a huge win for Pennsylvania.
It is a win, but we still have a battle ahead of us. And you know, you were in the military, you know, we're gonna stay the course. We're gonna win in the end. Our constitutional republic's at stake. That's all. So
yeah, won the battle, not the election integrity war.
That's
we're still fighting on. Doug Mastriano representing Pennsylvania's 33rd district as our state senator. Thank you, sir. By the way, I didn't throw it in. Did I hear just like a week or two ago you threw your hat in the ring for governor, right? Aren't you running?
I am a gubernatorial candidate, and we're number one in all the polls. Actually, since May, I've been on top of the polls, and it's just growing wider. So God is good.
We'll get it up there. People want to learn more about your campaign.
DougForGov.com.
That's an easy one. DougForGov.com. All right.
Yep,
you too. Take care.
Thank you so much. You're clear.
Thank you, my friend.
Thank you.
You're my hero.
Have a good day.
You too. Judy. Bonk you on the head.
How to leave the breeding and just Baker that we have such low productions. It was nice to see just
and in the upcoming days, we'll know the full extent of the fund and its impact as producer.
Hello, sir. This is Newsmax from New York. Can you hear me?
I have you, Lima Charlie, loud and clear.
Thank you very much. I love Florida. Moved to California many years ago. I was in a car and I had like a dozen Florida oranges. And at the border, they don't want Florida oranges there. You have to have California oranges because they're by the midfly or whatever.
Right.
And so I sat there and was eating oranges before going in.
Yeah.
So I had a bunch of oranges first.
Well, we'll talk about the difference between the two in the break.
We will. With
Yeah.
Ford O'Connell who's coming up. But right now we want to talk about the Pennsylvania court, which has struck down Act 77. That's a law that established no excuse-mail voting in Pennsylvania, claiming that the act violated the state constitution.
Now, it's a temporary win for state Republicans. The court ruled that any changes to the voting law would require a constitutional amendment, with Judge Mary Hannah Levitt saying, if presented to the people, a constitutional amendment to end the Article 7, Section 1 requirement of in-person voting is likely to be adopted, but a constitutional amendment must be presented to the people and adopted.
Hello, this is Kevin New York Audio. Can you hear our program okay?
I have it, yes, thank you.
Excellent.
And voting can be placed upon our statute books.
So, Princess Bean heading into the midterms, joining us now, constitutional law attorney Amir Benno. Amir, we wanted to kind of explain this for folks. Doug Mastriano, also state senator in Pennsylvania, also joining us. And I'm going to start with Doug, if you don't mind, Amir. I'll get to you in just a second. But Doug, I wanted to get how important this was. We know it was a lower court, may get undone by the higher level. We can talk about that. But what is it that they found that you were satisfied with?
Thank you, Heather and Bob, and thanks for discussing this important topic. So the Commonwealth Court, which is just below our Pennsylvania Supreme Court, ruled that the way that the voting laws went into effect in 2019 were not constitutional. They should have gone, as you rightly said, on a referendum to the people, which I do agree with. But here's the crux of it, and your constitutional attorney will probably hit on this as well. The Pennsylvania State Supreme Court completely rewrote election law. They changed it. They took away the requirement for matching signature. They took away the protection of the postal stamp being on it, proving that it was mailed before the end of election day. They added 3 days for the election for the ballots to come in here, and they also later on allowed the curing or the correction of ballots incorrectly filled out. And those things weren't voted on at all. So I think this whole thing was compromised from the get-go. And that was brought forth actually by the Texas case by Paxton that 19 or so states did an amicus with to the U.S. Supreme Court. So this next goes to the Pennsylvania Supreme Court. I believe they're going to uphold their original ruling because that's the same court that made that decision. And I'm hopeful that we can get a decision down the line at federal court.
Yeah. So, Amir, the question is the issues that the state senator just outlined there, were they in fact unconstitutional changes that were made?
So there certainly are changes that the senator discussed that are only granted the power to do that to the state legislature, and not to the courts or to any administrators in the bureaucracies of the state. And so that is constitutionally, the U.S. Constitution grants that to the state. Here what we have is a state constitutional provision that is talking about whether you have to show up in person to cast your ballot or whether you don't. And there's ambiguous language in the state constitution, but the Pennsylvania courts have pretty decisively in the past decided that ambiguous language meant that you did have to show up in person. So you can't then have a mail-in, and they had some exceptions. Like you could do mail-in voting if you were ill or if you were at work, or they had some very narrow exceptions, but they didn't have, no excuses where you could just mail in a vote no matter what. And that's exactly what happened. And so this is a split decision. It's going to go up, and they're going to try to resolve the ambiguities. The states try to argue that the petitioners in this case lack standing. They're trying to argue that this legal issue wasn't timely brought, and then barring success on those claims, then they're arguing that the Commonwealth Court, which the senator correctly said is the middle court, the intermediate court in Pennsylvania, they interpreted this constitutional provision incorrectly.
Yeah. So Doug, here it is as I understand it. You can have absentee ballots, but you have to have an excuse for it.
Yes.
You can't just mail one in. And this law allows you to just mail it in. And so these judges on a 2-1 vote said you can't do that. You have to have a reason. You have to have an explanation, an excuse. But now, when it goes to the Supreme Court, it's a 5-2 Democrat to Republican makeup there. So how do you think this plays out? And by the way, folks, just so everybody knows, these people are elected, so they're partisan by definition.
That's right. Yeah, they have 10-year terms, and they are elected. And as you rightly said, Bob, it's 5-2 Democrat Pennsylvania Supreme Court. And it's the same exact members that actually allow the rewriting of election law. And so I'm heartened by the interpretation by the Commonwealth Court here. I'm not hopeful we're going to have any success at the state Supreme Court. And in the end, we're going to have to find a way to get it up to the U.S. Supreme Court to make a final decision on all this, because I do believe we are in a constitutional crisis, because the manner and conduct of elections constitutionally is up to the legislative branch, not the judicial branch. And that's the hostility or the conflict we have here constitutionally in Pennsylvania.
Was this something that was introduced as a result of COVID, trying to allow people to vote safely, and now Pennsylvania and perhaps other states are trying to use this to make a permanent change to our elections?
So the voting reform package was in 2019, but the changes by the Pennsylvania Supreme Court and by our Secretary of State, which is appointed by our Democrat governor, were made during COVID. And so those changes were made largely in the context of COVID and as a safety measure. And so we do have an argument to make here that now we're beyond that crisis, and now it's time to reset and go back to the election law before it was corrupted.
Yeah, and Amir, we got about 15 seconds. The Supreme Court typically lets states figure these things out, but do you think there's a possibility they would take up something like this?
I think it's slim. It's a state constitutional claim, so I don't think that this is something that they're going to grant cert on. And the one other issue I'll mention here is this was a brokered deal between the Republicans and the Democrats, where the Democrats wanted this no excuse absentee voting. The Republicans wanted to get rid of straight ticket voting. And so legislatively, they agreed to do this. I think that might weigh in the decision by the High Court, the Supreme Court.
Yeah, and it was overwhelmingly passed by 2/3 in both houses.
But all of this could be overridden if Congress and Democrats get to federalize elections like they're trying to do.
That's another All right. Douglas Mastriano, State Senator, sir. Thank you. And Amir Ben,
Thank you.
always a pleasure with you. Thank you.
Coming up, we're going to talk about Joe Rogan. He did address the controversy surrounding his podcast. Neil Young.
Okay, so that was news. I haven't done a live broadcast on YouTube in some time because usually I'm using the computer for my lives. But so the first was OAN with Dan Ball, and that will be on. Hello, Charlene. Great to see you. That'll be on at 8 p.m. tonight on One American News Network. Newsmax, that was with Bob and Heather. That was live. So thanks for tuning in here. Obviously, lots of ups and downs with these court decisions, but it's all part of the process. So let's see. Checking in with you guys. Thank you, Rachel. Hope you're doing well. Thank you, Connie. Maria, nice to see you. Thank you, Susie. Viking Princess, that's fantastic. Call sign. Reverend Frank and Lisa. And Davina, nice to see you. And Jenna down in Florida, that sounds great. Well, I hope everyone's doing okay. Thank you, folks. So petition drive starts on the 15th, I believe, of this month, of February. We're still in January. Hey, Patty Jean, good to see you. Well, I got a fair number of people tuning in here, even though I haven't used this in a while. So that's that. Thanks for tuning in on my two interviews, one with OAN and one with Newsmax. It's cutting it kind of close. I think I had like 30 seconds, and Bob Sellers didn't expect me on. That was my picture popped on. So going a little close. Thank you, brother. Jules. Trying to think of what else is going on here. I'm trying to, keep caught up. Many requests from across the state to appear, and trying to manage those. So we're going to have some rallies around the state to try to absorb all those small requests, so we can, gather in large groups and have a celebration. The rallies will have a keynote speaker, somebody with big name recognition. I hope to have a Christian artist in, like to be like a mini version of Gettysburg. With 500 to 1,000 people. And trying to read without my glasses. Forget it. Damn. That's funny. Artistically mine. Got the notification. Wow. Yeah, Rachel wants Danny Goki again. We'll see. Oh, Patty Jean, will we be up there in Clarion area? I don't know when I'll be there next. Hopefully. So anyway, so I see it's 31 outside here. It's much warmer than this morning. But I won't dither anymore. Got more stuff to do. Thank you, my friend. It's always good to connect with you, and it's always far better to see you all in person. We had a good event yesterday in York at Gateway Church. I was invited to speak there by Pastor Rubin, and we met. Kristen Phillips Hill had him come and pray to open the Senate in prayer, and I think it was November. It's like, hey, love to have you come to my church on Sunday to preach. So we scheduled that. And then a few days before Christmas, he tragically died in a car accident. So it was kind of sad. And it's in Senator Kristen Phillips Hill's district. So she did a certificate in honor of the pastor, and she gave very moving remarks. And it's posted on the Fighting for Freedom page. But yeah, it's really kind of sad. So dealing with tragedy and loss like that, and his folks were there, his wife was there. So just keep him in prayer. Yeah, sadly, quite a few people passed away the past few months here. So Thank you, Lisa, for watching the message. I thought Rebby did a fantastic job in her remarks. Susie, look forward to meeting you as well. Connie says Northumberland County is working on an event. Look forward to meeting you as well. Oh, Japan is checking in. Look forward to seeing you hopefully in Harrisburg sometime next year when we get sworn in. So, okay, Wednesday be in King of Prussia, the Southeastern Caucus. Well, it's part of the old party stuff. They'll have a caucus in King of Prussia area. I recommend you go. I don't think it's an open event anyway. So it's part of the state committee folks from the Southeast. And then, of course, we have the state GOP committee meeting on Friday. Come to one of our hosted events. Don't want to waste your time. And I'll pop over my calendar and see if there's any public events coming up. And then I'm going to hop off. So tomorrow I'm hosting at 6:30 p.m. a live constitutional class on my Senate page. Wednesday I have that event down near the Southeast. Thursday I'll be on National Report with Sean and Emma at 10 a.m. on Newsmax. That's Thursday morning at 10 a.m. Friday over for the state committee meeting. I see this weekend there's the Great American Outdoor Show in Harrisburg at the Farm Show Complex. Glad they finally got that PPE moved out of there. Ridiculous. Don't know if I'll be swinging up for that on Saturday. No, I won't be. Got something else. And I'm in session, it looks like, on Monday, the 7th of February, and Tuesday and Wednesday, 17th and 9th of Feb. And anyway, so talking to you guys soon. Let me hop off. Thank you, Vanessa. Definitely Patty Jean. You guys take care. Have a great day.